Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Jen Statsky, the co-creator of Hacks, a six-time Emmy Award nominee and an Emmy winner for the Max series as well. And she's here to discuss the incredible third season of Hacks. Jen, I wanted to start with the finale, which I would say is maybe the best, maybe the best episode yet of the best season yet. So I guess and the way it ends is fantastic. So
Thanks.
did you always know, or when did you guys know that you would want to end it,
hmm
land on that note and have
Yeah.
this
So
final kind of rift between them?
we always, when we go into seasons, when we pitch this show, we know the arc of the entire series and where it's ending. And so then when we go into each season, we kind of know these 10 poles of things we want to hit. And there's, of course, things to figure out. But really early on, we figured out that Ava would need to take the head writer job back from Deborah after Deborah would lie and take it back from her. So that was always something we were building to in the season. The thing that was a little bit we had to figure out was the exact mechanism by which she would blackmail her. We didn't, there was conversation about is it something more from the past about, her slapping her or things like that. But then as the season went on and we were trying to figure it out, the her sleeping with Bob Lipka, Tony Goldwyn's character, just felt really correct and right.
Do you have so I guess I want to ask you this. I was reading I think another interview you guys did, or Lucci was like, oh, Ava maybe lost her moral compass by blackmailing Deborah here. Do you actually, so I guess I was wondering, do you think that she's lost her moral compass, or do you think that she is using Deborah's lack of a moral compass against her? And I guess how did you kind of think about that?
Well, I think that it's both things, which is what makes it so layered and hopefully interesting, is that Ava is losing her moral compass. She's doing something, underhanded, and she's blackmailing, and these are all things that we learn early in life not to do. So of course she's losing her moral compass to some degree, but one thing we also talked a lot about is that what she learns in that fight is she's asking Deborah to speak her language. She's asking Deborah to speak her language of so to speak, emotional intelligence, and Deborah can't meet her there. And then because Ava truly believes, it's not just about her wanting this job for herself. Of course, she's ambitious and she does want it and believes she deserves it. But it's also that she believes the show will be better if her and Deborah are working together on it. And so for Deborah's own good, Ava says, okay, I'll speak your language. I'll blackmail. I'll take it from you. And in many ways, she's right that Deborah, you know, game respect game, so to speak. And I don't know that Deborah would respect someone who would just take the number two and sit back. That's, I think she on some level really wants Ava to be her equal. And that's why in that last moment where she kind of looks at her from across the table, there's a sense of a wry smile, because it is exciting for Deborah to have someone an equal, and she didn't quite know Ava had it in her.
That last moment reminded me of the Succession season 2 finale, which is also one of my
Yeah,
faves.
yeah, a lot of people have said that, which is such a wonderful compliment. Obviously, we're obsessed with that show. I'm curious, did you, because we've been talking about this as we write season four, is did you read it also as altruistic in this twisted way of Ava to be handcuffing herself to Deborah, or was it more, did you first see it just on the level of ambition and her taking what was hers?
No, I actually thought both, because I think you made one of the things I really love about this season, and especially with how you kind of have written Ava over the course of the show, is that you've established that she's actually gotten better, I think, in her career, and it feels like she deserves that job, right? It's not just oh, they should have it because of their relationship, which she kind of verbalizes, but I actually did believe that as true, right? We've seen, and I felt like having her get offered the head writer job on the other show is a great way to illustrate that, right? That she is
Yeah.
capable of doing this and should be doing this. And so it is both, I guess, in there. So I thought that was really, I felt like it was both. It does not feel completely opportunistic. It feels like it is good for what's right for the
For
show,
both of
right?
them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Other thing I was thinking, I want to ask you this too, thinking about the show, when the final confrontation between the two of them, I would say is really a great scene, and both Jean and Hannah are so incredible in it. I guess when you're writing that kind of sequence or that kind of moment, it does. does it give you leeway to know you have these? I mean, Gene obviously is an Emmy winner for the show, and Hannah maybe should be an Emmy winner for the show. Hopefully, well, that will happen this year, maybe. But I was like, do you like? Does it help knowing that you have these great actors able to execute this material? Like, and does that give you leeway in it? I guess to maybe push it
Yeah,
further.
it's such a like joy to get to obviously write for Gene and Hannah and everyone, Paul, Meg, Carl, the whole cast. It does allow you, what is so nice is it allows you to go really deep. It allows you to go to these emotionally deep places to say these like, also like I think what's so interesting on this show is like we balance comedy and drama. Like we always want to be funny first. That's always our priority. We take the privilege of being a comedy seriously, of like making people laugh. But then we do obviously do really dramatic moments, such as in that living room scene. And it's like it is such a gift to know that in Gene and Hannah's hands, it'll never go like melodramatic, because I think that would be like a real fear for all of us, is that some of this stuff, saying, you think you're lonely all the time. Like, you think you're lonely when you open a bottle of champagne. You're lonely all the time, and you're going to die that way. That's like such an intense line, but I think like it could be performed in a way that is maybe melodramatic. And we just never have that concern with them because they're so good. And we knew, Jean has to put up a real emotional wall in that scene, which is something she's incredible at doing, in putting up a wall and saying so much with so little. But Hannah really has the bulk of this like huge emotional lift in that scene, and she's just like, I can't talk about her enough in that scene, because she like really blows me away every time. Like I've seen, we've seen it hundreds of times now edited, and just like so impactful.
Yeah, she does so much without saying anything, and like the way it's so quick, right? It feels like contemporaneous, like almost like just happening
Mhm.
in real time. Like her emotions,
Yeah,
like really
yeah,
great.
yeah. And we don't cut away, like when we were editing, John Philpott, our editor, like had the full take in, and like you really are with Hannah for like 25 seconds or something. And you see it all play out on her face, and it's just super powerful.
I'm glad you mentioned how the show is very funny, because holy cow, it's a hilarious show, and it is like you're writing like real jokes and like punchlines and setups. It's like a real like comedy that like people would know as a comedy. I guess when you see
Thanks.
like I just overall like how do it feels like it's a rarity now, like or like not, or maybe not a rarity, but it's like unique to be like, wow, comedy that's actually very funny, right? So I guess like when people are like comedy's hard right now or like anything like that, like what do you think they're missing, or like what are they not understanding about making a comedy that could be a comedy?
Yeah, I think like, well, I think two things. I think comedy has always been underappreciated and seen as less important than dramatic work. There's Best Picture at the Oscars, like it's always it's never a comedy really. And so I think what happened was, as streaming took off and budgets got big because everybody was in this crazy race to catch Netflix, I think we and this is both executives and creators that did it. Like I think we kind of got away from making comedy, and people got seduced by the idea of making these like really expensive dramedies, and it became about something else, and people, I think, were forgot the like a little bit forgot how important it is to like make people laugh and write a joke, and how valuable that is, because we were like all seduced by like, this is like a beautiful, I don't know, like this is seen as more important because it's not just a comedy. It's like it's dramatic. It's like it's a little bit, it's a dramedy. I don't know. And so I think that kind of happened. I think that like as budgets exploded, because there was just this crazy TV boom, a cheaper to make comedy became less attractive to creators, and also just maybe everyone in general. And then I think there's also like this cultural conversation happening right now that is silly in my mind, of like, you can't joke anymore, you can't say anything, and like it's just, obviously we deal with this in the show in episode 8 especially, but like that is just like not, plainly not true to me as a person who's written comedy now for I don't know, 9, 13 years. You can make jokes, and you can say things that are funny, and you just have to be aware of your target, don't punch down. And that's a pretty good rule of thumb. And also, and again, as we talked about this in episode 8, like So I think to answer your question, I think also people there is a fear going around of like you can't make jokes and you're going to be punished for saying things, and I think it's just gotten really out of hand because it's not true in my experience.
And I think the show that, like you said, episode 8 is really great. I think, I don't know, not refutation of that, but like it does like really discuss it in a great way. And I think you really
Hmm.
present it out right. The other thing I love about the show in that episode, I think in general, the thing you guys like, it feels like very much like all the perspectives are given like respect, I guess, or do you like you
Yeah,
like you know what I mean? Like I think you guys really do a great job of that with this
yeah.
show. Or even if you don't, I think the audience will certainly agree with one side or another. But like even a lot of these things, everyone is given like true like equal status. I feel like I don't know. I just
Yeah,
find that really
thanks.
impressive. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we talk about that a lot, that like with Ava and Deborah, we always want them both to be a little bit right and a little bit wrong each. I think there's a version of this show that is like Zoomer Boomer and like Boomer's always wrong. And it's just, I don't know, like it's important to us to, I think, portray all these characters with a level of dignity, even though it is a comedy and you are poking fun at them a lot. Like, but we want to give everyone's viewpoints merit, because if you don't, then like that there's like you're only hitting the first level of the discussion, I think, if you don't, if it's a one-sided thing. Whereas if you go deeper and both sides have good points, you can maybe get to like a third point, which is something new. So we're always trying to do that.
You mentioned this earlier when we were talking here about like the depth, like having these great characters. I feel like this season you got to do that. Like all the characters felt like deeper this season. I guess the Jimmy and Kayla stuff I was thinking of specifically, like they were great, and like I love Paul and Meg obviously are incredible in those characters. But like, did you guys make like a conscious choice to really bring them into more of like the story than they had been previously, or like why was this the right season to like really do that? I guess.
Yeah, it's always like, I think Deborah is the epicenter of this show, obviously. And so her goal is just, this is a show about Deborah Vance and her ecosystem. And so it's always about her goal. It's always about her story first and foremost. And I think it's never like, oh, we should bring these characters in more, these characters in less. It's really the story drives it. And so her going after this late night goal in season 3, it just so naturally dovetailed with Jimmy and Kayla having a bigger role because they're her management and they're her reps, and that they would be part of that. And so I think that's a nice thing about season 3 that people have responded to positively, which I really like, is that I think people, it feels more cohesive. It feels season 2, everyone, by nature of having Deborah and Ava go out on the road, everybody was a little split off, and that was hard to make it feel as cohesive. Whereas this season, everyone has this one goal they're working towards. And so really it's just about what characters make the most sense for this to be in the story. And then luckily, Paul and Meg are the funniest. And so it was great. It's always great to write comedy for them, but then it was particularly fun to write things for them that feel even more hacks in tone, in sense. Like Deborah and Ava's relationship is like, there's hard comedy, but there's also like hard emotional stuff. And so it was really nice to give Jimmy and Kayla that depth, and explore Kayla, why she is the way she is, and try to like give her some color that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you were saying before too, like that's a character that maybe on a different show is just always going to be a punchline or like kind of silly. And this season really getting to like
Yeah.
flesh out her, backstory, like her life. I was like, oh, this is like really good. Like again, like I
Yeah.
think like the
Thank
dignity
you.
of the characters, maybe. Yeah, like
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, it's really good. Do you have like you met like this season? Obviously, like I don't think it's just me, but I feel like a lot of people are like this is the best season yet. Certainly, and it's like and I know there was so much adversity getting the season even on between Gene's health and the strikes, and obviously it was been 2 years since the second season ended. So knowing you had this great material, I guess was it like I don't know, like heartening to like get that response that people were really excited, not just for the show to come back, but to feel like oh my god, it's better than it's ever been, maybe.
It was super heartening because it's like, yeah, like you're saying, 2 years off the air is scary, especially in how fast things move now. People move on from things, and they can love something one year, and then the next it's like barely talked about. And so to have gone through what we went through with Jean's health scare and the strikes, and then and just be making the show through it all, and knowing that we ourselves felt like, oh, this might be the best one yet. Like we feel really good about it, and then just like wanting so bad people to see it, and it taking so long. I've said it before in press, but it's like we started shooting in November 2022 and finished in January 2024. Like it's such a long process. My friend, said to me, it's like you're making TV Boyhood, because it was taking so long. My friend Justin Halperner runs Abbott Elementary, actually. So, uh, and it's so funny because it was so true. It's like, this is taking so long. It was crazy. So just very like lucky that it's gotten the response it has, and we feel super, super happy with it.
And now, so it's coming back for season 4, obviously, which maybe hopefully will not have as much of a delay, right? Presumably, I
That's
guess
the
like.
hope. Yeah, we're writing now. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I guess like I know you're not going to say anything, but I'm sure you basically like it seems like you guys have everything like pretty planned out in terms of like where it's going, right? I know you
Yeah.
talked about that too. So I guess like what are your early like I don't know, did watching the response to the third season or having seen the third season play out, does that change or adjust anything you maybe have planned for the fourth season?
It's always like a really difficult balance, because we love the show, obviously. It's our baby. And so there's this great temptation to like read everything about it and take things in, but then you also don't you want to stay creatively pure to some degree. You don't want to start, too much like crowd testing things and then saying like, oh, should we write that because people like that, and should we not do that? Um, so it's tricky. It's where we know, but yes, to your question, we have arced out the full series arc, and we know where we're going that way, and so we know tent poles we're hitting. Of course, then everything in between those tent poles need to get filled in as we write the seasons, but no, there's no like fundamental like big story things that have changed, because we pretty much know where we're going.
Do you anticipate like another kind of time jump, or is that like too much of a spoiler to talk about?
I think that's too much of a spoiler, but
Okay.
well, I
Okay.
gotta be honest, you almost got me to answer it.
Okay. Oh, because that's I'm trying, but it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was good. It was good. It was so naturally.
That's fine. Jen Statsky, we have to have here an Emmy winner for Hacks, and just a great show, obviously. Season 3, you can stream all the
Great.
episodes on Max. Jen, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.